I went to my second villa to prepare it for rental, and I found my daughter-in-law living there with her 3 children. She laughed when she saw me, as if I had walked into the wrong house, and told me my son had given permission. She even said that if I did not like it, I could call the police. I did not answer her then. Not yet. My name is Camille Harper. I am 61. I have learned over time to keep certain parts of my life quiet, not secretive, just contained. The villa was one of those parts. I did not buy it to impress anyone. I bought it after my divorce, when I realized security mattered more to me than comfort ever had. It was meant to be steady income one day, a cushion I could lean on without asking my children for help or explanations. I kept my finances separate from family on purpose. I paid my bills on time. I saved. I did not borrow trouble, and I did not offer myself as a solution to other people's problems. That boundary had taken me years to learn, and even longer to keep. The villa stayed mostly empty while I decided what came next. When retirement settled into my bones, I made the practical choice to rent it out. Nothing dramatic, just a sensible step forward. That morning, I drove there with a property manager, thinking about leases and timelines. I was calm. I was prepared. I just did not know yet that the door I was about to open would lead me somewhere else entirely. The property manager, Evan, walked beside me up the driveway, tablet tucked under his arm. "We'll do a quick walkthrough," he said. "Then I'll have my team come in tomorrow." I nodded. "I want it listed by the end of the week." He smiled politely. "That won't be a problem." The first thing I noticed was a small bicycle leaning against the fence. Pink paint chipped at the edges. I slowed without meaning to. "Do you have children renting nearby?" Evan asked, following my gaze. "No," I said. "This place has been empty." He didn't argue, but his eyes lingered a second too long. The trash bin by the garage was full. Not moving day full, but lived in full. Evan cleared his throat. "Sometimes neighbors use the wrong bin. That's possible," I said, though my stomach tightened. When we reached the door, the porch light was still on. It was late morning. "I don't remember leaving that on," I said. Evan held out his hand. "Want me to unlock? I have the key," I replied. Sharper than I meant to, the key slid in, but the lock resisted before finally turning. Inside, I could hear a television, children laughing, a woman's voice, relaxed, unguarded. Evan looked at me. "Ms. Harper." I didn't answer. I pushed the door open and stepped inside, already knowing this wasn't a routine visit anymore. The door opened fully, and the sound rushed toward us. Cartoons blared from the television. A child laughed, sharp and careless. Something clattered across the floor. Evan stepped in behind me. "Miss Harper, are you sure this is the right address?" "I'm sure," I said. Shoes were piled by the entryway, not adult shoes, small sneakers, mismatched sandals. A backpack lay open, crayons spilling onto the rug. "This isn't staging," Evan said quietly. "No," I replied. "It isn't." The smell of food hung in the air, warm and recent. A half-eaten sandwich sat on the counter beside a juice box. The straw bent. I stared at it longer than I needed to, as if it might explain itself. From the living room, a child shouted, "Mom." He took it. A woman answered without urgency. "Then take it back." Evan lowered his voice. "Do you want me to call someone?" "Not yet," I said. My heart was beating, but my hands were steady. That felt important. We moved farther in. Moved. Toys were everywhere, plastic figures, blocks, a stuffed animal missing one eye. The sofa cushions were indented, claimed. A blanket I didn't recognize was draped over the armrest. "This property is listed as vacant," Evan said. "There's no lease on file." "I know," I said. Another child appeared at the hallway entrance, staring at us openly. "Who are you?" I didn't answer him. I looked past him. Down the hall, toward the master bedroom. The door was closed. Footsteps approached. Slow, unbothered. Evan shifted beside me. Waiting, I stayed where I was, taking it in piece by piece. The noise, the mess, the certainty that someone had settled into my life without asking. By the time the woman reached the doorway, confusion was already gone. Something heavier had taken its place. She came into view with a phone in her hand, still typing as she walked. When she looked up and saw me, her face barely changed. No surprise, no embarrassment, just a small pause, as if she had to place me in her day. "Oh," she said, "you're here." I recognized her voice before her face fully settled into focus. Melissa, my son's wife. She leaned against the doorway like she belonged there, like I was the one who had arrived unannounced. The children quieted, sensing the shift. One of them climbed onto the sofa beside her. She didn't move. "Why are you in this house?" I asked. She glanced at Evan, then back at me. "We're staying here." That wasn't an answer. Melissa shrugged. "It's temporary." I kept my voice level. "Temporary still requires permission." She smiled at that, not kindly, not nervously. "Your son gave it." The words landed heavier than the mess around us. I felt them before I reacted to them. "You should have called me," I said. "You were busy," she replied. And honestly, Camille, it made more sense this way. One of the children tugged at her sleeve. "Mom, can I have a snack?" "In a minute," she said. Without looking away from me, Evan cleared his throat. "Ma'am, this property isn't listed as occupied." Melissa laughed softly. "We're family." "That doesn't change ownership," I said. She tilted her head. "You're not actually going to make this a thing, are you?" I looked at the children. They were watching me now, wide-eyed, waiting to see who would win. "I'm asking you to explain," I said. "Not perform." Her smile tightened. "We needed somewhere to land. You had space. You weren't using it. I was preparing to rent it. That can wait." "No," I said. "It can't." She studied me for a moment, as if seeing how far she could push. Then she leaned back into the sofa, casual again. "Well," she said, "we're here now." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step forward, but something inside me pulled back, sharp and deliberate, as I realized this wasn't confusion anymore. It was entitlement, said out loud, in my own house. I stood there for a moment, letting her words settle. Then I took my phone out of my purse. "Call him," Melissa said, already sure of the outcome. "He told me you'd understand." I dialed my son's number. It rang longer than usual. "Mom," his voice came through low and careful. "Is everything okay?" "I'm standing in the villa." I said, "With your wife and your children." There was a pause. I could hear him breathe. "She said you gave permission," I continued. "Is that true?" He didn't answer right away. When he did, it wasn't what I needed. I just told her it might be fine. He said, "It didn't seem like a big deal at the time." "A big deal?" I repeated. "You told her she could move into property you don't own." "Mom, don't make it sound like that," he said. "They were desperate. I was trying to help. You didn't call me. I didn't want to stress you out." Melissa folded her arms, watching me, satisfied. "I was renting it out," I said. "That income was planned." He sighed. "You have other resources. That isn't your decision." "I just thought," he said, "since it's family, family doesn't override consent." I said. Evan shifted beside me. He didn't speak, but his presence felt heavier now. My son lowered his voice. "Can you just let this go for a bit? I'll figure something out." "You already figured something out," I said. "Without me." There was silence again, longer this time. "I don't want to fight," he said. "I don't want to disappear," I replied. Melissa leaned in. "See, he gets it." I held the phone tighter. Do you understand what you're asking me to absorb? He exhaled. You're stronger than this. That sentence cut deeper than anything else he had said. Strength, to him, meant endurance. It always had. I need you to tell her to leave. I said. He didn't say no. He also didn't say yes. I'll call you back, he said. The line went dead. I lowered the phone slowly. Melissa's smile widened. Just enough. Told you, she said. He said it was fine. Something in my chest shifted. Not breaking. Hardening. I looked at her, then at the children, then at the space they had claimed so easily. The permission she was holding on to wasn't written anywhere. It was spoken in hesitation, backed by my silence. Melissa watched me after the call ended, waiting for something. Tears, anger, apology. When none of it came, she laughed. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Well, she said. That was anticlimactic. I met her eyes. You need to leave. She tilted her head. Or what? That isn't a challenge. I said. It's a boundary. She laughed again, sharper this time. Camille, please. You're not actually going to throw your grandkids out. They aren't my grandchildren, I said. And this isn't their home. Her smile slipped for a second, then came back, wider. You're really going to do this? I'm asking you to pack. She gestured around the room. With 3 kids. Where do you think we're supposed to go? That's not mine to solve. Evan stepped forward slightly. Ma'am, this property is privately owned. You're here without a lease. Melissa waved him off. I'm talking to family. I'm the owner. I said, that makes this my problem. She stared at me, then leaned back against the sofa. Fine. Call the police. The words landed cleanly. Deliberately. If you don't like it. She added, call them. Let's see how that looks. The room went quiet. Even the children stopped moving. Something inside me cooled. The ache I'd been carrying dissolved into something flatter, clearer. I nodded once. All right. Her laugh faded. You're kidding. I'm not. You wouldn't, she said, but her voice had lost its rhythm. I will. For the first time. She stood up straight. Camille, don't be dramatic. This is the least dramatic option you've left me. She searched my face for the softness she'd counted on. It wasn't there. When I reached for my phone, her confidence cracked. Wait, she said. Let's talk. I didn't stop. The humiliation I'd felt a moment earlier had burned itself out. What was left wasn't anger. It was certainty. I stood there with my phone in my hand, not dialing yet. The room felt suspended, as if everyone was waiting for me to blink first. Evan didn't say anything. He didn't need to. His silence felt respectful. Like he understood this wasn't a business problem anymore. It was a line being drawn. I realized how familiar this moment was. Not the villa, not the trespass, the pause. I had spent years pausing for other people, softening my words, explaining my choices so they wouldn't feel judged, fixing situations I didn't create because it was easier than watching someone else struggle. That was what they had learned from me, that my kindness came with access. Melissa watched me closely now. You're really serious, she said, quieter than before. Yes, I said. She crossed her arms. You're choosing this over your own family. I looked at her. I'm choosing myself. The words felt strange in my mouth. Not heavy. Exact? Evan shifted his weight. Ms. Harper, he said gently. Do you want me to step outside? No. I said, stay. Melissa scoffed. You always were cold. I wasn't. I said, I was careful. I thought about how many times I'd been called strong when what they meant was convenient. How often strength had been used to justify taking something from me without asking. My phone vibrated in my hand. A message from my son. I didn't open it. Melissa took a step toward me. Camille, don't do something you can't undo. I met her gaze. I already did. I stayed quiet for too long. I looked down at the screen, then back up at the room I owned, the life I protected, the woman I had become in that stillness. Then I unlocked my phone and started to dial. My thumb hovered over the screen, not because I was afraid of the call, but because I understood what came after it. Once I pressed it, there would be no pretending this was still a misunderstanding. Melissa watched my hand. "Camille," she said, forcing a smile. "You're taking this way too far." I didn't look at her. I focused on the numbers, then stopped. I unlocked the phone again, steadying my breath. Evan spoke softly. "If you want, I can explain the situation when they arrive." "I'll do it," I said. "It's my house." Melissa stepped closer. "You're really calling them over this, I said, finally meeting her eyes. "Is trespassing." Her expression flickered. "You don't mean that." "I do." She shook her head. "You're going to traumatize the kids. You should have thought about that before you moved them in without consent." I pressed the call button. The line connected quickly. A calm voice answered. 911. "What's your emergency? I need officers sent to my property." I said. My voice sounded unfamiliar to me. Flat. Precise. "There are occupants inside who refuse to leave. I am the owner." Melissa's face drained of color. "Camille." "Stop." "The dispatcher asked for the address. I gave it. She asked if there was a lease." "There isn't," I said. No permission was given by me. Melissa reached for my arm. Evan stepped between us without touching her. "Don't," he said quietly. "The dispatcher asked if anyone was in danger." I looked at the children. Now silent, clinging to each other. "No immediate danger," I said. "But this situation is escalating." Melissa's voice cracked. "You can't do this to me." "I already am," I said. She laughed once. Breathless. "Your son will never forgive you." "I'm not asking him to." The dispatcher said officers were on the way. I thanked her and ended the call. The room felt different after that. Smaller. Real. Melissa sank onto the sofa. "You said you wouldn't." "I said I would," I replied, for the first time since I'd walked in. She looked afraid, not offended, not amused, afraid. I stood there with my phone in my hand, knowing the life I had tried to preserve by staying quiet was already gone. What remained was something steadier, something honest. And I didn't put the phone away. The officers arrived within minutes, 2 of them. Calm, professional. They asked me to step forward first. "Are you the property owner?" one asked. "Yes," I said, and handed over my identification. He examined it, then nodded. "And the occupants inside. They're here without my consent." Melissa stood up fast. "This is a family matter." The officer looked at her. "Do you have a lease or written permission from the owner?" She glanced at me. Her son said it was fine. That doesn't establish tenancy. He said, "We need documentation." My son came through the front door then, breathless, eyes darting. "Mom," he said, "let's slow this down. You're late," I replied. He turned to the officers. "This can be handled privately." "Sir," one officer said, "we're already here." He lowered his voice. "Can't you just give them time? They've had time," I said. The children were gathered by the sofa. One of the officers crouched to their level. "We're going to step outside for a bit." "Okay." Melissa shook her head. "You're humiliating me." "No," the officer said evenly. "You're being removed." My son reached for my arm. "You didn't have to do this." "I did." I said. "You left me no other option." He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left for him to explain. Melissa began to cry as she gathered the children's coats. The officers waited without rushing her. No one raised their voice. That made it worse somehow. As they walked her out, she looked back at me, not angry, broken. The door closed behind them. The house fell quiet in a way it hadn't been all day. One officer handed my identification back. You did the right thing. I nodded, but it didn't feel like victory. It felt like weight settling where denial had been. My son stood there, staring at the floor. I never thought you'd choose this. I never thought I'd have to. I said. He left without saying goodbye. I stayed, listening to the silence, knowing it was permanent. Evan stayed behind after everyone left. He didn't rush me. He simply asked, "Do you want me to secure the property now, or do you want a minute I want to do it?" I said. He handed me the keys without comment. That small act mattered more than he knew. I walked through the villa alone. The quiet felt earned, not empty. I gathered what had been left behind, a forgotten shoe, a crumpled drawing, and placed them neatly by the door. Not out of guilt, out of closure. My phone buzzed. A message from my son. "We need to talk." I typed back, "Not today." Then I turned the phone face down. I stood at the front door and slid the key into the lock. The sound was firm, final. When I turned it, something in my chest loosened. I had spent years believing love meant access, that being a good mother meant leaving every door unlocked. Standing there, keys in my hand, I finally understood the cost of that belief. Evan waited by the gate. "I'll change the codes tonight," he said. "Thank you," I replied, "for treating this like it mattered." "It does," he said. "It's your life." After he left, I sat at the kitchen counter and wrote a short list. New locks, cleaning crew, rental listing live by Monday, practical steps, forward motion. The kind that doesn't ask permission. Before I closed up, I paused and spoke out loud. Just once. "This is mine." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. There's a lesson I learned here. And it isn't about property. It's about boundaries. Kindness without limits teaches people to take. Silence becomes agreement. And family, when left unchecked, can confuse love with entitlement. Choosing yourself doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. If this story resonates with you, if you've ever had to choose dignity over keeping the peace tap, share your thoughts in the comments. Or subscribe to hear the next chapter when it comes. I turned off the lights, locked the door again, and placed the keys in my bag where they belonged. Peace didn't come from reconciliation. It came from self-respect, finally exercised, without apology.